This is the CNC machine that I've been building over the last week or so in the evenings and when I'm not tied to the computer. This is a CNC router mill. I've used linear slides. These are the round linear slides. They're 12mm and I've got 16mm ball screws on the X and the Y and a 12mm on the Z. They are all bolted in. I've not fastened any of the ball nuts onto the carriages yet, so everything's moving quite freely. I've got one last bit to make, which is the spacer between the ball nut block there and the Y carriage, or the X carriage. I've initially put quite a small motor on it. I didn't want to put too big a motor on it first. I can always add some weight and see how it performs for a bigger motor. So potentially you could put an 80mm or rather more. This one will certainly do bits of wood and plastic. The motor mount, so I had some of this very kindly given to me by one of the local scrapyards. That's kind of where it started. So I was going to build the whole thing kind of out of that, but then realised some of the other bits of plate I had lying around were more suitable. So on the long axis I've got a large stepper motor there. That was one that was left over from when I did the CNC mill. I bought a 3-axis set, so 1, 2 and the third one I had put 2 split motors on. Originally I had NEMA 17s on there and they were too small, so I've got 23s. So I had a spare motor left over and that's where that one's gone. And then this is a NEMA 23, short one, and on the Z-axis I've put a NEMA 17, but I've got a 2:1 ratio on that as well. I didn't want to have a lot of weight up at the top there, and that's another reason why I've hung it down behind. I didn't want something wobbling around up here that would might throw it off. These rails I can cut down once it's all finished. Nothing's tightened up yet. It's moving very smoothly, but hopefully once it does tighten up, everything will be good. That block there, I've just made that today, and this plate, and there's just a bit of an interference fit. It just goes over, but I just need to take a 0.1 of a mil perhaps off that, and then that should be good. So it's all coming together. What I'm going to do with this is, for the electronics, I'm going to use the same electronics that I use for my CNC mill, which is a set of 4 drivers I have over here, and that's running Gerbil. And then I've also got an extension little board here that allows me to use this controller. So I've got X and Y and Z and a speed control for that, and all that does is actually there's a gate, a set of gates that either, if I'm using one of these buttons, it takes the control from here and shuts off the Gerbil and feeds through pulses into the steppers, so I don't need a computer. One of the things that I found was when I'd CNC'd this, of course I couldn't use it nearly as easily in manual mode, and I didn't want to have to keep dislocating the belts and things like that. So with this dongle I can now control all the axes on that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put a set of plugs in between this system and the mill, and then another set of plugs for the smaller CNC, and then with that I can just change the plugs over to drive this instead of the mill. I might even consider putting that back, because I didn't actually have to drill any holes, or I've not modified the original Downham mill in any way. I've just taken bits off and added bits on, so I've not drilled a single hole or done any modifications to the original machine, so I could completely refit the original machine back together as it was. and then this mill, hopefully it'll be a bit faster for things like cutting wood, doing nameplates and stuff like that. It'll be a lot easier, I think, doing it on this than trying to do it on the rather heavy mill, although that one is very precise. It is great, really. Yeah, so it's starting to come together. I'll do another video once I've got everything running and it's all tightened up, but yeah, nearly there. Enjoy.